If I had to pick one book for a writing teacher to read, I might cheat. I might talk about two books or flip a coin. It would either be Aristotle's Rhetoric as the place where it all feels like it really began, or it would be Peter Elbow's Writing Without Teachers. That's maybe a little self-centered on my part because that's the book that influenced me the most as a teacher. I was a new teacher of secondary English when I encountered Peter Elbow's book. It was published in '78. I became an English teacher in '83, depending on how you count it, and it completely transformed my sense of what could happen, what should happen in a writing classroom, in the relationship between teacher and student, in the relationships among the students, and for student writers themselves. Who influenced my work the most? Well, it depends on which work you're talking about. If we're talking about my teaching of writing in the classroom, it would have to be Peter Elbow. See what I said earlier about Writing Without Teachers, but also I know Peter Elbow and I've followed his work. He's been very influential on me, and I've been a student of his, and so yeah, he's the one who's influenced my teaching the most. I think Peter's amazingly smart, kind, funny, dedicated, in ways and to degrees that I think most of us just aren't. My scholarly work, the person who influenced that work the most is Brian Hewat, writing assessment specialist. And I can still remember going to 4Cs when I was a young graduate student and starting to think about writing assessment and hearing Brian give a talk about reliability and validity. And it was sort of one of those moments where I realized I could do this. This would be interesting. This would be a worthy project. And that's the project to which I've devoted my scholarly career. How do I orchestrate peer groups? I think orchestrate is an interesting verb there. There are two things I keep in mind and foreground with my students when we're preparing to do peer groups. One is the question of authority or expertise. Again, depending on where the student is in her or his education, they often feel, okay, I'm just a student, I don't know enough to give good advice. So the way I address that is to say, you are the world's foremost expert on at least one thing, and that is your reading of this person's text. So what you need to do, what that writer needs, is a fairly detailed account of your experience. Peter Elbow calls them movies of your mind, however you decide to describe it. Your experience of reading the text. Where did you think, yeah, this thinking is good, you've just given me a new idea. Where did you get bored? Were we puzzled, lost? What were the strongest connections? Just whatever was going on when you read the text. That's what the writer needs to know, because that's what the writer is trying to create, is experiences for her or his readers. So that's how I address the expertise authority issue, which is big in a lot of students' mind related to peer response. And the other thing I talk with the students about, and I found this very productive, is I just start the whole conversation on peer response by saying, okay, we're going to do peer response. You're going to read and respond to one another's texts, and this could be a total waste of our time. How do we make it not a total waste of our time? How do we make this a valuable experience for you as students and writers? And the students are willing to say, yeah, we've got to be detailed in our responses. We've got to be willing to affirm and to challenge. We've got to avoid getting mired in mechanics and look at ideas and thinking and insights and possibilities. They get it. And they're all thinking, yeah, I've done this and it's been a waste of time. Pretty much everyone seems to have had the experience of peer response being a waste of time. And so I have found it useful to start by getting that on the table and inviting the students to help us figure out how to make it valuable. use of time, because I'm not interested in anybody wasting time, least of all myself.